We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Just making sure that you guys are able to hear me, that you are. Um, Great game by the LSU Tigers. A very strong performance tonight versus Central Michigan. Guys, we've been preaching it all week long. I've been telling you all week that there were some things going on inside that locker room, and LSU tonight put it on display and showed off that leadership and that toughness and having adversity all the last 3 weeks. They came out and dominated both lines of scrimmage. In my opinion, a lot of people will talk about the running game, young wide receivers, Max Johnson looking good, secondary looking good. I called out Derek Stingley this past week. He looked good. So we have a lot to get into. We will break down the game. This is our first LSU AYS post-game show of the year since Hurricane Ida, but I'm very excited to be here and very excited to do it. So let's do this really quickly. Let's talk about our good sponsors. We are here at the Drake Williams Law Firm, live on location. Guys, come see them over at 154 West Pine Street in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. That is where they've been humble enough for us to be here. So I'm very gracious for them on letting us be here, and our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, I hope you've been placing some bets. My bets look like trash this weekend, but I hope you're making the money and you're doing it on BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to use your mobile device. Sign up today. Use the 50% welcome bonus. Let them know your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. Roderick, right off the top, we'll get to a lot of comments. If it's your first time joining us, we will get to a lot of comments. It's what we do in the post game. I'll let you interact. We are not taking phone calls this season as we had some very, we just had some people who didn't know what to do and calling in a post game show. But Roderick says you called it, Blake. Look, guys, I'll just tell you all week long, I'd been hearing from people inside the staff, from people inside, some LSU players the entire week that LSU players were challenging each other to go out there and start playing more like Tigers. And they 100% showed that tonight. The first drive, when you have Deion Smith, a guy that we have not seen really all season long, mossing individuals. The very next drive, Derek Stingley forcing a fumble, Andre Anthony picking up and a scoop and score. You go up early against Central Michigan, 14-0, and that game was pretty much decided there. But Max Johnson looking absolutely amazing tonight, 26 of 35, 5 touchdowns. I'm okay with the one interception. I don't like that it was a pick six, but Coy Moore made the right read in the zone. Max has got to get better with that. He will get better with that, but I thought that he had a great performance. A lot of people are going to talk about the running performance and that the running game wasn't dominant. But, guys, they were stacking the box. I thought that they made fantastic adjustments tonight. Look, if Central Michigan's going to stack the box and they're going to set blitzes, you got to be able to do what you're doing tonight. We've been talking about this for 3 weeks. Guys, it does not matter. You got to establish the running game. Well, when you go out there and you're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 yards a pop when you're sending pressure and you're stacking the box, what does it matter? When you're doing things outside of the backfield to your running backs, what does it matter if you're getting them involved? Corey Connor coming on late. I like that with 74 yards, 6.2 yards per carry and a touchdown. Ty Davis Price still struggling though. Look, I think Corey Connor's after his job, and I don't think that's I think after 3 games we can start to assume that. Let's see here. Derek Street says about time, a decent game. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, look, I just think that it was as simple as LSU and players challenging one another the entire week. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds very minute and something that's just like something so simple, but you got to have this inside of your of your team for this to happen. You got to have that. And when players start checking one another, that's when you start dominating and winning football games. Period. Period. It's not even close when you got guys that start doing this and challenging one another when you have talent. You're going to see this. You're going to see this a lot. Russ says, come out and hit someone in the mouth on offense and D right off and set the tone. And that's what they did tonight. Look, I've been very vocal this week about Derek Stingley. Very vocal this week about Derek Stingley. I've said that he needs to play a little bit more inspired. And look, he's and like I've said all this week, he's played, or he is a top 5 talent. He's got to play like it. He's got to play like it, guys. That's not a shot at Derek. That's not a shot at all at Derek. What it is a confirmation of, though, I'm trying to pull up the stats for some reason. It's not pulling up completely. Let's see. We'll go here. All right. But I thought that you had some young wide receivers, that stepped up big. Jack Besh, guys. I mean, I think that our guy Carter the Power put it great this past week when he said you can't take Jack Besh off the field, and you can't. And look what he did. First drive being 65 yards and a touchdown. He had a couple catches there. The one-headed catch in the end zone. I thought you had a lot of guys that did a lot of good things. Brian Thomas having the 40-yard reception. I mean, when you're able to score that fast and take shots. So this is what I want to get into before I get to more of the comments. Jake Peets called a great game, and it's what he's been needing to do. And you saw Orgeron lose his absolute mind on the sidelines when it took Max long and he had to call a timeout, and LSU would have to wind up punting. He comes off the sidelines, and look, Max took the coaching. Max took Ed getting in his face and getting in his grill. They need to go up tempo. It showed tonight. Orgeron has been telling you this for the entire week. Good on them for fixing it. It's what they were doing all week in practice. And so it translated really well to the game, and I thought it was a nice win, as Daniel Glenn says here. A little sloppy, but got it done. Yeah. Look, some of those kinks you're going to have to get out when you got Florida in a couple of weeks, a Mississippi State team that struggled today against Memphis and wound up losing. How did they respond next week? So, look, you're going to have to clean some of these things up. But one thing that Mississippi State did do well today is defensively, their scheme looked really good. They held a very prolific Memphis offense, not to their normal yards and touchdowns and points. So you got to look, it's not going to be just a cakewalk, even though they lost to Memphis. Don't let that loss to Memphis just tell you, oh, well, we're going to waltz in here and do that. Everybody please do me a favor by hitting the like and share. If you're on Facebook, hit the like and share to some Facebook groups. There's a lot of you in here tonight. Please do me a favor by doing that. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share to Facebook, share to Twitter. We'll greatly appreciate it. Chris Barnhill says it seems that LSU is becoming physical again. The tempo makes this offense a much improved unit. Kiner needs more touches. I agree that he needs more touches. You do have to tell him, though, however, to not, he needs to gain ground, not give ground. If you remember in the second half, there was a play where he broke one on the outside. He was given a lot of ground, only lost 2 or 3. But, in the SEC, when you got guys that are just as fast as you are and that can tackle in space, you're going to, that 2 or 3 yard loss turns into a 6 and 7 yard loss, and you can't have that. You can outrun Central Michigan, Big Daddy. You can't outrun Alabama, Florida. You're not going to be able to outrun everybody. So you got to tell him to get north and south. Outside of that, I thought he played pretty well. Henry Pooh Bear, the energy, the play, the confidence. I'm pumped for this season now. Well, we got to be let's not overreact to Central Michigan. Let's not overreact to Central Michigan in this game. I do like the energy. I like the up-tempo. Look, as crazy as this sounds, LSU ran a trick play in the sense of, they did the fake check with me snap, Deion Smith in the end zone. I thought that was pretty smart. look, the communication really too, I thought was I thought the one thing that I worried about all week was if you're going to go up tempo, I did worry, can you fix it that quickly? It was not an issue. You're going to have to continue to do that. You're going to have to find a way to get a running game though. At some point, because there's going to be times where teams are going to lock you down on the outside, but you do got to find that. But LSU started off with a out 21-0. I didn't like the blown coverage from Major Burns. It's something he's got to learn on. But look, LSU fixed it very quickly. They made adjustments defensively. When Central Michigan started struggling, they started running crossing routes. I think there was a time there they ran 3 or 4 crossing routes, and LSU, one was a drop from the receiver from Central Michigan. Another one was LSU tackling in space, and another one was a first down, but it was only like a 2 or 3 yard gain. So showing that they've really worked on that. So there were some things defensively I really liked. Lamar Williams says Sting stepped up tonight. That he did. Called him out all week, and I'm glad that he stepped up. Look, I'll be the first one to say it. I called him out, and I thought that his play needed to look a lot more like it did tonight. And look, he stepped up. He made it. Look, I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Rodgers, but I think that he was right when he said Derek Stingley on the first missed tackle made a business decision. The second one, he just said, I really don't give a shit, which quite honestly is a business decision when you run up there and you hit somebody and you force a fumble. Thomas Banks says, told you last week I've seen a new fire in this defense, still miss some coverage issues. Yeah, they had some coverage issues. You want to see that get fixed, but look, when you have a good offensive mind and Jim McElwain, you expect them to score some kind of points. But I do like how they did things. Jeffrey Till says Kiner needs to start. I like the energy with him. He hits the hole quick and he doesn't wait. Look, and Ty Davis Price has struggled, man. He's struggled. So, he's just struggled. And I don't think that that's a knock on him, but he has struggled. And if Connor's going to be that guy, he's going to be that guy. Nookie, what's up, Nookie? He says defense with an edge and an attitude tonight. That they did. And look, you got to respect the fact that, this team was hit with some adversity this week, and prayers out to the Falk family. But this team responded behind that. They could have used all the excuses in the world to come out flat, to come out mediocre, but they didn't. And again, I respect the hell out of this team for doing that and responding. The KF on the helmets, very, very classy. And I thought that they did good. Chili Vic says Pete's should also implement the pistol formation to help the run. Maybe. I wouldn't mind seeing it, see how it works. See how it works. Jacob says Corey Connor equals Clyde. I think, I get what you're saying there, Jacob, but I mean, he's a completely different back than Clyde is. The one thing, what it's going to be very interesting to see and very fun to see is when Amari Goodwin comes back, how they implement him. Guys, I'm being honest, I hate to, I'm not trying to poo-poo on Ty Davis Price. I'm not trying to be mean to Ty Davis Price. But I just feel as if the time is now. I mean, Ty Davis Price, 6 rushes, 4 yards. That can't happen. Now he did have some leadership out there, picked him up with the blitz. I thought he looked good. Ryan Thibodeau sends us some stars, says check with AYS, not me. Who needs to check with us? But he does send us a $2 super chat. Richie Roche, our one of our great sponsors, says, "What's up, Blake? What's up, Richie?" He says, Sean asks, "Yo, Blake, you geeked up?" Yeah, I'm a little geeked up, not from marijuana or tripping shrooms, but I'm geeked up that this week we've talked, been able to do the live show somewhat normally. and just some things that we're hearing, and it came to confirmation. Because when guys, being upfront with you, when I come out here on the show and I I come out here and say stuff, it my ass is on the line. So when things get confirmed and that they're going to get confirmed, you just have to wait the days. I put a tweet out the other night saying, look, things are changing and you better get on board with it because it's about to happen. And quite honestly, I'm glad that LSU looked as good as they did. Nookie says, shout out to the Drake Williams Law Firm for helping out. And yes, they can defend the crossing routes. Yeah, they talked with the LSU defense this week as well. King Mo, what's up, King? He says, Ron Ty Davis Price. Ryan, Ty Davis Price would have gotten tackled in the backfield if that stick farm from Corey Connor. Look, man, he's just going to have to be more physical, me and TDP. These little ankle tackles aren't going to cut it, man. They're not going to cut it. At some point, you got to tell him, hey, put your foot in the dirt, find a hole, just start running people over. I mean, look at Corey tonight. I mean, it's like, get off of me. That's what makes a good running game. Sometimes you're going to have situations where the defense does everything right. You stiff arm a man into oblivion, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. Another example, when Corey Connor could have easily gone down on that touchdown when he used a little spin move, a little spin-a-rooney. Could have easily gone down. Sometimes backs got to run a guy over, make a guy miss. That's your job. That's your job. So he's going to continue to get the ball, man. He's going to continue to get the ball. Tracy on YouTube says Corey needs more playing time. I have a central belief that this is going to be the central theme of the show tonight. Stephen Frey says Deion Smith giving me JJ vibes, lights out tonight. Yeah, that long catch and run, not the Moss, but that long, when he started juking dudes, when he pop, 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 I was like, man, that's very Jets-like. And, Ed said that. Ed said when he recruited Deion Smith, that the number one guy that he reminded him of was that Smith reminded him of was Justin Jefferson. Like, that was the comp from Ed Orgeron, and you like to have that comp. I don't know how you keep Kayshon Boutte, Jack Besh, and Deion Smith off the field now. Damn, did that Auburn game just end? Somebody hit me up with that Auburn score. What did Auburn wind up losing? I saw that they were down when we started the show. I saw that they were down. That stinks. That stinks if they lost. Lane Smith, it doesn't matter. We still got to play them. Screw them. Lane Smith says, hashtag ask Blake, how concerned are you about the running game going into SEC play? Guys, I'm not as funny as it sounds, I'm not as worried. And I thought, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Jordan Rogers here, but I kind of agree with him tonight and when he was saying some things. Like him, Cole Kubelik and the other guy, and I forget his name, God forgive me, but they said something to the effect, oh, we were worried about the running game. And then Jordan Rogers is like, why? Max Johnson just threw for 5 touchdowns and 370 yards. Why? If they're going to stack the box, if they're going to send blitzes, that does not help the running game. Cole Kubelik has said something tonight that I've been screaming from the bleachers. Tempo is going to help this running game. When they start backing out and they start playing coverage, meaning the defense, LSU was able to run the ball. Central Michigan, if you remember that last drive that Corey Connor had a lot of the good runs, they played coverage. They did not play in the box. Guys, that's what happens. So if you're going to make them pay with RPOs, saw more RPOs tonight from Jake Peets and calls. A lot of those. So if you remember, I remember vividly 5 RPOs that Jake Peets ran tonight. 5 of those, Max pulled, hit a quick slant, hit another little pass here and there, and they were able to get the first down. That's not always going to be the case. A lot of the times you're going to be able to get the running game involved there. But if the read is to pull it and throw it and get a first down, there was a one that he hit to Jack Bech. There was a crossing route he hit to Jack Bech that I remember pretty vividly on that one too. To say that I'm worried about it, I don't know if I'd say worried. I like that Jake Peets in the offensive play calling tonight. If it continues to do what it's doing right now and you continue to have success, no, I'm not going to be worried about it. I think that you're going to have some success. Now, the thing is that you saw Florida tonight and Alabama, or today. Florida's got real dudes up front. When you only lose to that team, and look, that Alabama team is a very physical team. They push them all around the field. So look, I'm not going to take anything from them. I'm not going to take anything from it. So to say worrying, no. Am I cautious? Yes. I'll put it like that. Reginald Cormier says, great effort on both sides of the ball. I agree with that. Pooh Bear says, if Andre Anthony is okay, he should be running back too. Did you see his stiff arm? I did. That dude's playing lights out, man. Leading the SEC in sacks. Mason Smith getting time at DN tonight when he went down. It's very rare that you can see a guy go inside and outside. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to your social medias. Look, there is 291 people in here right now. I better see 291 shares. Please. Cormier says, play the freshmen. They are better, or they are good. They are very good. Jacob says that Bech is a machine. Justin Owens says Jack Bech reminds him of Jacob Hester, just at wide receiver. Dude is underrated. I think that as much as I love Jacob, and I don't think that he would mind me saying this, Bech is a lot more athletic. Now, Jacob would run a dude over and put their what's in the dirt. But he's much more athletic. That one-handed catch, guys, I mean, and that's your H-back. That's the guy that you're lining up as a technical tight end, and he's doing that to DBs. You cannot keep Deion Smith. You cannot keep Jack Bech. Look, I thought Devontae Lee did some good stuff tonight. A guy that we didn't see until late tonight was Jeray Jenkins. Jeray Jenkins did get in the game late. He did not play. So, look, I think from the wide receiver room and Trey Palmer wasn't out there. It's going to be a rotation, but Brian Thomas, but I would expect them to keep the four that I would assume is what's going to be next week is you're going to have just out the gate Jack Bech, Kayshon Boutte, who had another good game, leading college football on TD receptions, by the way. Trey Palmer and Deion Smith. Those are going to be your four wide receivers. No question. Like, there's no questions about that. I think somebody sent us the Penn State score. I don't see it, though. But it would have been yep, there it is. Courtney Putnam, my sister. What's up, sis? It says Auburn lost to Penn State 28-20. Damn. That stinks. All right, let's get to a couple more of these comments. You know what? Before I get to a couple more, you know what I was surprised about? If you remember, LSU sent a blitz tonight. They finally sent a blitz, the first time in 2 years that they've sent a real designed blitz. The last time I can remember them really, dialing something up was that Jacoby Stevens sack, the first defensive series against Mississippi State. Their formations look different. They communicated better on defense. They are getting better defensively. Hell, they're getting better offensively. What's going to be scary for the rest of the SEC, and I know that we're worried about LSU right now. The scary thing for LSU is, and quite honestly, is if LSU continues to get better, how dangerous can this team be? Now, they only have the one loss. They're 2-1. Look, this Central Michigan team did keep a game with Missouri really close. Missouri goes and plays Kentucky. They keep it close with Kentucky, but wind up losing. And you can't really translate games like that. But when LSU can play like LSU is known to play, you see performances like that. Another thing that I think that stood out that I hope people stop talking about is Garrett Nussmeier. Guys, Garrett's not ready right now. Not to the level of Max Johnson. He went 3 of 10 last week, and I forget his stats. Went 1 of 4 tonight. One of them being a 28-yard catch. I just don't think that he's ready right now. And maybe if he got in with the ones, but look, you had some, you had really good wide receivers that were still out there outside of Kayshon Boutte. Your starting offensive linemen were still out there, all 5 of them, because you remember Austin Deculus going down. Corey Connor was the one that really was the bell cow and really carried them late. So I'm gonna sit on, and look, I was critical of Max Johnson too this week. I said my patience was wearing thin. He responded. But I think that he responded more to the fact that LSU ran tempo. LSU ran things that he was comfortable with. It finally felt like LSU went to Max and said, hey, what are some plays that you like this week? They moved the pocket for him. So, what's crazy, even though Miles Brennan's probably not going to play this season, nor really should he, it's interesting that how does Max evolve in this running game when Miles returns? Because you have the depth. A couple times he should have pulled it. He could have picked up, large chunks of yards running the zone read, and that would really make defenses respect you if Max just pulls it and gets 10, gets down, and no harm, no foul. Brand says, how about that stiff arm? I know, man. That was vicious. Like that was vicious. Almost as amazing as that interception from that kid from Oklahoma today. That was sick. Lamar Williams says, and Max took some shots. He did take some shots. Max Johnson took some shots down the field. And look, I thought the O-line protected better. Look, the funny thing is, it's not – we knew Central – it's like, oh, Blake came up with a great analysis there. I said all week Central Michigan was going to send pressure, and they did. They just picked it up better. And they picked it up better, and it looked better because of the fact that they got the ball out quick and ran RPOs. 2.5 seconds, the ball's out. 1.8 seconds, the ball's out. Another thing, listen to me. So 298 of you, listen to me. Do you remember the receiver screens? And they're not like traditional receiver screens, but Max, catch ball, boom, to Boutte. Max, boom, catch the ball to Boutte. LSU's going to run that a lot. Moving forward, watch for the quick game with Kayshon Boutte, especially if they have the numbers. So those little 7, 8, 9, you remember, what was that? At one point, Kayshon Boutte had like 6 catches, 44 yards, but only 7 yards or 6 or 7 yards per catch. I think it's 7.4 if my math is right in my head. Well, hell, let's see what he had right here. I got the stats. Kayshon Boutte, 6 catches, 44 yards, 7.3. Damn, I was close. 1 touchdown. So you're going to see that a lot. That's going to be a real extension of LSU's running game. Carl Dunn says, I'm jamming out to Eric Clapton. Clapton. Nice win by the Tigers. Every time somebody else was getting clapped tonight, and it was Central Michigan. Travis says Jenkins straight up quit on that route. Yeah, I saw that. Looks frustrated. Ryan Thibodeau says, I want to see what happens against an SEC opponent. Well, you're here. And Mississippi State does have, look, I kind of took a shot at Ed earlier today because if you remember, Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator for Mississippi State, was a guy that LSU brought in to line up for their DC. And they said he wasn't good on the whiteboard. He was dialing it up today, baby. He was dialing it up today. So, all right. You can't take your foot off the gas pedal now. I don't like that LSU didn't finish, but it kind of, I know what happened there. LSU and the players just kind of took a big, exhale. Whew. And I really don't blame them there. But Corey Connor, I say that Corey Connor comes out there and starts stiff arming people in the dirt. By the way, guys, that's with the starting offensive line after 4 quarters of play. All right. That kid's going to start, man. That kid's got to start. Unless he starts turning the ball over, he's got to start. Reginald Cormier says, I thought with our quick scores, it forced Central Michigan to play catch-up and throw the ball. D-line just went after the quarterback, still hoping for an improved rush defense. Yeah, let's see what they did defensively. So Central Michigan had 31 rushers, 56 yards, 1.8 yards per carry. You still got to improve, like you said, but, I mean, yeah, they played catch-up. But when they did try to run, it wasn't successful at all. Father Abear was one of us. One of us. What's up, Father Abear? Says, key for me tonight was playmaking. A lot of plays like 50-50 extra effort plays, which were capitalized, and we needed that. Yep, we did need that. Needed it big time. Needed it big time. Let's see. Let's get to a couple more of these comments. Jacob Cole says the freshmen are coming, and they ain't backing down. Look, this is one of the better classes that we've seen in a while. You know, there was one play. You know, Dwight McLaughlin was back out there, looked a little rusty. He'll get into it, though. That's another guy. Look, and I got to give credit to Cardell Flott. Carter the Power Bryant, who was on Thursday, said that he'd been playing well. And another guy, Jason Hines, he did take a shot in the chest and fell down. But that was a really hard block for him. He picked it up anyway. Look, if you're going to – it doesn't really matter if you get run over, but if you do your job, right? Like, I get what some people say. Some people get mad. Oh, so Jason Hines just got run over. But that's a long way for a big man to come over. He takes on the 2 blitzing guys, takes one in the chest, is able to let Max sit in the pocket for another touchdown. So I liked it a lot. I like the offensive lot. Bundy says the Smith and Neighbors catch was wow. Yeah, that what's so funny is that Malik Neighbors catch is going to go down. People aren't going to talk about it a lot, because it's only for 5 yards. Yes, 6 yards, but it was a hell of a catch. He got he definitely got it. What's interesting, let's see, you got 5, 10, 12. Let's see here. 13, I guess we'll call it. So of the 27 receptions, 13 of them were from true freshmen, almost half at the 27. Almost half of your receptions are from true freshmen. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous. Darren says, #Ask Blake, our chances versus State at 11 a.m. Well, if the same team shows up, I think that that LSU you could see a lot like tonight. The problem is the thing that worries me right out the gate for Mississippi State on us, we're not even an hour out from, we're 36 minutes out from this game. And for me, it's going to be, this is going to be the true telltale sign as if LSU truly is adjusted, because Mike Leach is going to just dial it up, coming off a loss, crossing routes. They're going to do a lot of things that's going to try to confuse LSU in the sense of this passing game. And it's really simplistic, too. The air raid's really simplistic. How does LSU respond after seeing this from last year and being humiliated? Now, you have a lot of guys on that LSU roster that was on this team last season, and they remember that embarrassment. If they need motivation to get ready for this game, first SEC opponent, a revenge game, going on the road early, you already know Orgeron's going to be talking about the pressure that don't sleep on this team, and so I think that the defense worries me as much as they've been have done better over the last couple of weeks. That scares me more than anything. And really, from an offensive standpoint, I'm still worried about the exotic things that Mississippi State's going to throw at this offensive line, because they've been very exotic. I mean, guys, tonight they were really exotic, or today they were really exotic. They have been all season. They have been all season. So we'll talk about this as the week goes on, but I, if this team, guys, the truth is, if this team continues to show up, I still think that you beat Florida. I still think that they're way too one-dimensional. I think that LSU's defensive line is better than Alabama's. We got proven that today. That team, guys, got, a lot of people are trashing LSU's D-line and defense after UCLA, and rightfully so. But the game that I saw today from Florida, guys, they put together an 11-play, 99-yard drive and ran it right at Alabama. And they got pushed around. I still believe that LSU's D-line, especially with the Alabama injuries, is better than Alabama. This team can win games. This team can win. I made the joke, and everybody laughed at me, and I said that I would shave my beard if LSU won 7 straight. I still hold to that. They can win some games. Travis says, Nuss is the most intriguing, exciting fourth quarter quarterback I've ever seen. I agree with that. He is the he is the most electrifying 4 for 14 passer we've ever seen. That kid's a gunslinger, man. But the problem with this is that, guys, I fielded the questions all week. I fielded them, and I kind of just was like pushing it off. Guys, we haven't seen enough from him right now to say that he's ready in a live game. Is he going to be good? Yep. He'll be good. He'll be fine. But right now, stop with the argument right now. Brandon Ruiz says, put some respect on Baskerville's name. He's all over the field and goes unnoticed. Yeah, he's been out of position the last couple of weeks. He had a good game today. Guys, another individual that had a great game today was Damone Clark. Let's look at these. They have the defensive stats. I don't think that they do. Yeah, they don't have the defensive stats right here on ESPN right now. Not that I can see. But I thought that, he's going to be your leading tackler for the season. How crazy is this? Of the 485 yards that LSU got, 400 came through the air. So when people talk about establishing the running game, LSU still not had a 100-yard rusher. Guys, we're going on a year and a half now. That's more scarier to me than anything, that you haven't established your back. Maybe. Andrew says Connor's our guy. Yep, I would start him. And I wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah, guys, I'm so late on these comments. We're already like 480, 445, 490. So let me scroll down and get to some more of these comments. Kevin says, thoughts on the O-line. I thought the O-line played good, in my personal opinion. I thought that they picked up the blitz a lot better. I thought that they were able to do, when Central Michigan disguised, they picked it up a lot better. But again, and I will go down on this hill, went down on this hill on UCLA, went down on this hill against McNeese. When you run up tempo and defenses have to back out in coverage and they can't send the blitz, when you start popping them out, 10, 12, Deion Smith, what was that touchdown? Let's see, Deion Smith. Trying to look at the 28 yards to Deion Smith. When you start doing stuff like that, 40-yard reception to Brian Thomas, when that starts happening, they back out. They can't send the blitz anymore. So you got to help your offensive line out with play calling. An average offensive line, from what we've seen so far. But, guys, I think going into the half, if I'm not mistaken, I think that we only had 8 rushes, and I'm pretty sure that those 8 rushes, you had close to 50 yards. On 8 rushes, you had close to 50 yards. I think it was 46, 47, if I remember correctly. I forgot my notepad about where I was watching the game. I'll say it. She told me to say it. Because we still don't have cable, internet, and all that kind of stuff. I did go watch the game at my mom's because it's close to the Drake Williams law firm. I'll give her the shout out she wanted. But guys, when you have 8 rushes for 45 yards and you're over 5 yards per carry, again, it's a play calling thing. And if they're going to give it to you, you got to take it. I thought that they played good tonight. Justin Owens says, Blake, I'm 100% worried about the running game in SEC play. I get it. But right now I'm not worried and cautious are two completely different things. I'm not worried about it right now. When, let's see. Guys, I'm just not, if you're going to do what you did tonight, because, guys, the passing game is going to set up your run. And how many of those RPOs is the defense going to be completely backed out in the box and you give it off and you get 6, 7, 8, 9 yards? That's the thing that I'm waiting for these teams to do. So next week, hypothetically, if Mississippi State, which I don't believe that they'll stack the box after watching this film, I think that they'll play more coverage. Then what happens? And quite honestly, what happens if Corey Connor's your starting running back? What happens then? That's what I'm more intrigued about than anything. Chris says, Rogers said, who cares about the running game? Run tempo, hit crossing routes, and force the linebackers in coverage, and then they'll start running the football. Bingo. 1,000%. He's not wrong. And look, we can make fun of him for going on The Bachelorette and all the crazy shit he's done, but he ain't wrong here, man. A former college quarterback, you got to give it to him. All right, everybody, do us a favor, hit the like and share to some Facebook groups. We'd really appreciate it. Will says, hashtag Ask Blake, we need O-lineman, and we equal to Bama. I ain't going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far. You certainly have the personnel in some places that can compete with Alabama, and that's for damn sure. Defensive line, especially. Reginald responds to Justin up top, says, same, we will need balance to beat the big dogs. But here's the thing about the big dogs. The big dogs aren't going to allow plays like that in the SEC, meaning they're going to have to back out and play coverage. Well, let's see what happens next week in the first one. Brand says, Blake, they need to use the passing game to set up the run. I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. They did it tonight to some extent. Let's see here. Jacob Cole says running backs have to be able to catch. If our running backs have a total of 40 rushing yards, but 50 and 60 passing yards, I'm good with that. Got to find ways to do it, man. You got to find ways to do it. And look, it was a good performance tonight. Corey Connor busted it out there at the end. And quite honestly, I think solidified the starting job. Now, Ed's probably going to run out there and say, we're still Ty Davis Price. In translation, meaning we are going to stick with Ty Davis Price. I think that with all due respect to him, he's a blithering fool if he sticks with him. Sometimes sticking with the guy that isn't getting it done is not the smart play. And I hate to say it like that, but it's just the truth. Trenton said, good to see Stingley start to ball. Yeah, he had been struggling, man. He had just been struggling. And I mean, it's funny, Cole Kublik asked Ed at halftime, he asked him how Derek Stingley was playing because he's been getting some criticism locally. I don't know of anybody calling out Sting locally outside of me. Now, I know Cole, and I don't know if he watches AYS, but I'm glad he asked. Blaine Smith says, better block Will Anderson. He's a great defensive end. He's a great defensive end, yes, but there were times, you better go pop in that film again. I think Will Anderson's a beast in and of himself. There were times he got physically abused in that running game. You don't run the ball as well as Florida did today and not get it, and at some point you get abused. Guys, I'm sorry. He was making big plays there at the end. I'm not taking away from him. He's a good player. There were times that visibly I saw him get absolutely abused by Florida's right tackle. Absolutely abused. Beaten like a scorned dog. Florida's offensive line is what scares me more than anything. That O-line pushed them around and said, bad baby, spanked that ass. That's what a good offensive line does. A good offensive line. They actually, quite honestly, they did good in the passing game. There weren't a lot of times that Emory Jones took sacks that were the O-line's fault outside of him doing blithering idiot stuff. Guys, he's got to throw that ball in the end zone there at the end. Don't take a sack to end the game. That's one of the – I rolled my eyes at that. And what's going to happen when Anthony Richardson starts playing? Chris Connor says, are we an air raid offense now? No, not by scheme. You know, the air raid is a scheme. It's not it's not because you throw the ball a lot, you're an air raid offense. So no. Nope. Will Prescott says Damone Clark shows up in the stat sheet because he's a middle linebacker, but he's not good at all. Guys, he had a good game tonight. I'll give him that. It's a good game tonight. Very good game tonight. AB on YouTube says, what's really scary is Ole Miss putting up that many yards in the first half. I saw that. Guys, that's another thing, man. I mean, they run the ball better than LSU, but they run up tempo, and that helps their offense. Guys, and they're an average at best offensive line. They throw the ball all over the field. So what? Guys, at what point do you say, who gives – excuse me for saying this. Again, who gives a shit? You had 485 yards of total offense. Your starting quarterback had 5 touchdowns. He's getting better. This running game, I promise you this, as I promised you this week that this team would turn it around, I promise you this. This team's going to turn a lot of things around, and I still have faith in the running game. Still have a lot of faith in the running game. Somebody texts me, goes, Blake, there's 96 LSU postgame shows. I know. We're still going to do one. And it's our first one, which usually is, especially with Central Michigan, it's usually pretty low. Meaning low from a traction standpoint. But the comments is rolling. Let's see. Let's get to a couple more of these comments. Daniel Glenn says, I want to see Goodwin in the entire game before we anoint Connor. He looked good enough. Yeah, he looked really good. And look, that sets your team up for a completely different scenario now. Completely different scenario. When Amari Goodwin's in the game and you got the speed that kid has, God bless it, if that kid comes back, and you're going to have to get him a lot in touches too. Guys, again, you're going to be – here's another scary thing that I think that we need to start having the discussion with. What happens when you start getting all these freshmen playing time and all of them start dominating and they return? Yeah, it might not be good for this year, but you start having that, and you start adding to those classes. That's what Alabama does. You got to get better on the O-line recruiting. You got guys like Emory Jones. I still think the kid from Lafayette, the center, what's his name, Fitzgerald. I think that he's going to be a good center. You need a center. You got Will Campbell. You got to find a way to make a splash nationally and get a big time offensive recruit from outside your state and change the freaking narrative. You're going to have to do it. Go find him. If it's the Armilla kid from Florida, if it's a kid from Texas, I would, go get a kid nationally and solidify this offensive line. Because you got guys. Look, next year, y'all think the offensive line. Look, and I've defended them. You think this O-line's bad this year? Okay, got a long off season, Big Daddy. But let's talk about this year. Henry Pooh Bear says, Blake, this is a little insignificant, but Cade York kicked the kickoff into the stands. I saw that. Here's the thing. It's not insignificant. And look, Ed did that for scouting purposes for Cade. He did that for a reason. Dax Jeter, what's up, Dax? Says McElwain got what he deserved, and it should have been worse. Yeah. Look, he's a slimy dude, man. He's a slimy dude. Conrad says Stingley better start balling again because the NFL executives are watching. He had a good game tonight. Let's see what this let's see how this team reacts, man. Look, you took 18 and 21-year-olds after a very brutal loss from a member of their team and a member of their coaching staff, and they turned it on its head, man. I thought that the coaching staff was more focused and locked in. I thought that the players were more focused and locked in. And when you have that, they're dangerous. Every LSU fan, I'm going to have to clip this. So hopefully I can write the time down. I don't have a book. 54 minutes. I'll write a big 5-4. 54 on my hand. Forgot my legal pad. Every LSU fan understand this. And this might be the hottest of takes. LSU can be a dangerous team. LSU can be a very dangerous team. We have to understand that if the team that played tonight continues to translate and get better as the season continues, LSU can be a dangerous team. So I know what you'll hear this week from local media. Oh, well, it's Central Michigan. What can you do against Mississippi State? And then when they beat Mississippi State, oh, what can they do at Florida? Did you see Florida? Hubba, 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 hubba. This team can be dangerous now. It's not easy to walk out there and start. I'm not even going to say it. You know what? It's almost 11 o'clock. It's not easy to put a dude's dick in the dirt, man. I'm sorry. But when you start beating the shit out of everybody, okay. All right, now, this team's dangerous. This team can be they're not dangerous yet. This team can be dangerous, meaning LSU. Chris Williams says one of the things that made Clyde Edwards-Helaire awesome was his passing game. I would like to see that 1-2 punch at running back. You're about to get it. Chris Barnhill says Ole Miss will beat Bama this year. Oh, I ain't going there. Guys, look, when it comes to Alabama, I ain't going to make no hot takes, y'all. But it was the one time that I saw Alabama up front getting pushed around, and I'm like, man, they just got exposed. Like, I don't remember Alabama getting exposed like that up front ever. I kept thinking to myself during that game, man, what happens if they get a damn decent quarterback? All right, let's get to a couple more. We'll keep the show tonight about around an hour because I know what next week will bring. It'll be a long show. And maybe I'm thinking we might have a guest for the postgame show next week. Alex, of course, says, why didn't we call fair catches tonight and instead just let the ball roll towards the end zone? That's an interesting point that Alex brings up, and I don't know why to that. Now, LSU, because, man, yards are so hard to come by, and they're hard to come by in the SEC. You're going to have to fix that. I think that Alex brings up a good point here. You're going to have to get up to the ball. You're going to have to catch it. You're going to have to fair catch it. But I think when, some of the kicks were just atrocious tonight, you're not going to have that a lot from a lot of more experienced and better kickers. But you can't let that happen. Will says, glad to see Devontae Lee, a.k.a. Megatron, got some playing time. Well, guys, it's interesting because Jeray Jenkins didn't come out there. I mean, Jeray Jenkins has been a starter the last 2 games, and look, the first one that they rotated in there was Devontae Lee, and I don't know if that's a DJ Mangus thing or who that is, but they certainly played him. And he did good. Sean asked on Facebook, hashtag Ask Blake, what happens when Miles is healed up? I think Max starts running the football and you get more dangerous. But he's not going to play, though. He's not going to he's not going to start over Max. But Jacob Cole, responds to it. Let's get to a couple of more, and then we'll get out of here. Reginald Cormier says, I think Max added a lot of confidence in his wide receivers tonight. Let's sustain that confidence with a high effort. Yep. Chris Williams says, targeting rules got to be changed. What happened? He says, do you think that college players are making money? Do you think that they will start getting fined in the future? I don't believe that. What are you gonna fine them for? And college football isn't a union, so like the NFL players can start getting fined because they're technically a union. No, I mean, what you gonna fine the kid for? I don't like the players in the NFL get fined now. Like call the penalty in college football if you want to call the penalty. I don't know what else, call a penalty, and if it's intentional, yeah, you can kick him out or whatever. If you want to do that, I'm cool with that. But then you start getting a whole gray area with that too. Like, do you think a guy was it's a gray area, man. How do you pledge intent? I guess Central Louisiana Tiger on Periscope says, was pleasantly surprised with their performance tonight. Not as pessimistic as I was 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and hopefully people get off my ass a little bit. Finally people get off my ass a little bit after, we'll see. I'm going to leave that one alone. Chris Barnhill says Lane has a bye week and he wants Saban. Ole Miss led the league in rushing last year. They will beat Bama. Maybe. I mean, I thought that they were the best rushing team last year. Guys, they hung 307 yards on your ass last year. They hung up 307 yards on your ass last year. They can beat some teams. Josh Shirley says, missed the beginning, but Connor over TDP all day. Yeah, that's going to be a lot. All right, and here's last two. Nookie says receivers were actually fighting hard for the catch tonight. It's a good point. And he says that's what what's been missing. That's a good point. Deion's, and look, you got the young bucks that want to play, man, and want to start. And when you get that rotation in there, that competition breeds that kind of stuff. And I thought that Deion Smith was fantastic. I thought Kayshon Boutte was as fantastic as always. Jack Besh, fighting for the ball. Good, man. Brandon says, hashtag Ask Blake, what do you think about Coach O takes out Max after pick 6 or confident standpoint? No, he looked a little nicked up there. A quarterback tackling the guy in the end zone I don't really like. I wish he would have got another drive to get the interception out of it, the taste out of his mouth, but, you're up big there. You're up really, really big, and so I'm okay with that. DGD podcast says UGA looking like a true threat this year to win it all. Might. All right, guys, we're going to call it a night. It was our first post-game show. Be back next week. We're probably going to bring on a guest for these post-game shows every week now. It's going to be really fun. First one, and we'll continue to do it. But you guys have a good night. We'll see you soon. Peace out, Girl Scouts. Drive safe.